All right, back again for week 3 of our podcast. Today we have a great episode because we will go more in depth about what Davis accomplished this week. So starting off, Davis, you want to explain what happened this past week?
Most definitely. It was a big week with two major events. First one was on Wednesday. We crushed a quarterly presentation. We had more clients attend than ever before. And to top that off, I finished this week on Saturday by completing my first Ironman. It was a long race, extremely challenging from both a physical and a mental state, but we got through it. It took every ounce of effort and determination I had, and it was a great family event because my grandfather traveled down with Maryland to see me complete this life goal.
Awesome. So, like you just mentioned, it was a physical and mental challenge. How are you feeling today? It's been about 24 hours since you finished the race. So, how's the body feeling? How's the mind feeling?
Today, I'm feeling a lot better. By the end of the race, I was absolutely exhausted last night. I could barely think by the end of it. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I'll have because everyone talks about the Ironman. Oh, it's going to be hard physically. You're going to be overwhelmed. Your muscles are going to be sore. You can't walk. But there's also an extreme mental aspect because as you can see, Brennan and I aren't together this week. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now. And driving up here today, about 2 hours from the race site in Maryland, it was tough just from a mental aspect. I wasn't as focused. And I think it just really drained all my body systems because I was taking wrong turns. I couldn't remember things and I was just misplacing things this morning. So it was an absolute disaster. But as my grandfather said, I'm slowly coming down to earth throughout the day and just trying to get through it. But it was well worth it because just the feeling when I ran down the finish line, I was able to just see the crowd get pumped up. I'll share a video probably with all of you down the road, but there was nothing like it after. It took me 12 and a half hours. So 12 and a half hours just slugging it out and getting it done.
Were there a lot of people there?
Yes, that was probably one of the best parts of the race was there was a community event. There were tons of volunteers, and it honestly made me feel a lot better about humanity because everyone was down there struggling to finish this long distance race, and the amount of support they had was unbelievable. For me, my grandfather traveled 9 hours with me and spent the whole day out there. He's almost 80 years old, but he might have done more work walking around for probably about 16 hours so that I'd be able to complete the event and made it a lot easier. On top of that, most people had some type of family or friend supporting them there, but just the local community was phenomenal as well. There were volunteers who were patient. They made sure that at aid stations, probably every give or take half hour within the event, you would have water, food, everything that you needed because it was just so intense and people were under extreme stress. So honestly, just the kindness of everyone that was there was probably even more overwhelming than the event.
So when you crossed the finish line, are we talking like 100 people? 200?
I'd say at least 1,000 because they had a turn right at the finish where you go downtown and there are people on both sides. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're saying, pull it through. If you're running fast, they're going nuts for you because this race is so hard. It's literally breaking people down every step of the way. But the crowd was there. I mean, you're literally running down Main Street, probably 1,000 people yelling, cheering, and they announce it. So there is honestly nothing like it.
Awesome. Were you happy with your time?
I would say so. Coming in, my goal was to finish it more than anything. In the back of my mind, based on my half Ironman times, I figured I could get it around 12 hours. I came up at 12 hours and 27 minutes because the run absolutely crushed me. And I think there was no way to truly anticipate how my body would react. But I just got it done. The last few miles took me, it seemed like forever, but just trying to break it down, sprint as far as I could, walk if I had to, take a break, and then just sprint again and get it done.
All right, yeah. So now we're talking about the race. Let's break it down. So as people know, it's a little over 2 mile swim, right? 112-mile bike and then a marathon at the end. So I guess just take us through each section and how you were feeling and what was going on. Maybe tell us how you were hydrating, eating, just because I've never done an Ironman. Most people haven't, so it's a beast of a race. So you started off what, like 6 a.m. in the morning?
Definitely. And I would say the preparation actually starts before that because in the days leading up, you have to make sure that your bike, all your gear is prepared and you have to place it in bags along the route. So halfway through the bike that you'll have enough drinks and energy gels or any food that you're going to have to get it done. But there's a lot of gear that goes in doing those 3 events. And just the 2 days leading up, you have to make sure that you eat properly, fuel, and then you've got to make sure you wake up early enough, because the actual race day itself starts around 4 a.m. when most of the competitors are going to get up. I woke up at 4 a.m. The race kicked off about 6:40 a.m. So wake up, eat some bread, a banana, some spinach, just real basic foods. And then my grandfather and I, we drove over. He dropped me off, which was extremely helpful because there are tons of people all over the place. We got set up and kicked the swim off right around 6:40 in the morning. So that's the pre-race leading in. Do you have any questions just hearing that? And then we can break down the actual race.
So were you dropping the drop bags off a couple of days before? And how did you strategically put them down based on what they told you? Or were you like, probably around mile 50 on the bike, I'm going to need this? How'd you do that?
So they have the 5 bags. Most of them are dropped off the day before. So your 2 main bags, when you transition from the swim to the bike and the bike and the run, you have to drop off the day before the event. So in this case, Friday, because those are going to have running shoes, biking shoes, helmet. If you don't have that, you're going to be in real trouble and you might not be able to race. So they make sure that that's all squared away. And on the day of the event, you bring down bags that are placed strategically. So halfway through the bike, halfway through the run, and you also bring in whatever you're going to need the morning before the swim. So they already tell you when you'll be able to access the bags, but it's a little bit of strategy as well to make sure you have the right things.
Cool. All right. So you kick off the swim. Was it open water? Where was the swim in?
The swim was in Choptank River, and it is basically connected to the Chesapeake Bay. So it's got a reasonably strong current. One thing that they don't tell you leading in, or at least I didn't know, was that there are jellyfish all over the water. So yes, it's a 2.5 mile swim. It's going to be hard under normal conditions. Yes, there's a current coming in from the river, but when you factor that in, that there are jellyfish in the water, it just makes it extremely different. Because for me, I went out, I'd say the swim was easy because you're fully rested. It's the first event. You're hyped up. You are one of thousands of people entering the water. Got to see my grandfather start the race, and the actual swim wasn't hard, but you're being stung by jellyfish. And I'd never been stung by a jellyfish before. So all of a sudden, my legs, my hands, everything started getting itchy because there were just jellyfish infested water. Yes, all throughout the race, and it just kept adding up.
Did it hurt?
It hurt a little bit, but it wasn't anything crazy, I would say. It was just a distraction more than anything.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, the longer you're in the water, the more pain you're going to have. And I'll say when we went to the bike, they did stay around for a little bit.
Okay. Dang. So you did the swim. Were you happy with your time with the swim?
I was. It took me a little bit over an hour. I think it was an hour and 8 minutes to swim the 2.5 miles. But you go out into the river, you swim 2 laps. So that way, there's sometimes you're going upstream, sometimes you're going downstream. And you could feel sometimes if the boats were going by, it would get choppier. But overall, I had trained a lot for the swimming, and I finished really well, I would say. And I felt strong coming out. I had tons of energy.
Okay. And then I guess because then there's a transition between each event.
Yes.
Were your transitions smooth, or because I saw your transitions were like 8 minutes, or some people were doing transitions in 3 to 4.
Yes. I would say I tried to be patient throughout the race. Obviously, this is my first time doing it. So probably pacing was the most important key to the day. Even starting out in the swim, I made sure I was consistent in my pace when I felt strong at the end. I went through, but then into the transition, I took plenty of time, as you'll see, maybe double the time, because I wanted to make sure that I stayed hydrated and I ate throughout the race. So I went in, they had a tent where you can go in, get changed. Luckily, I was wearing the same triathlon suit the whole time, so I didn't even do much changing. But I went in, just calmed myself down, ate probably a whole bag of pretzels to get the salts that you need to fuel up. So probably like 500, 600 calories, drank a whole water on top of that to stay hydrated. Broke it down, saw my grandfather going by again, just another way that he supported me. And I made sure my bike was all set, plugged in the Garmin so I could get all the distances and see what my timing was. Because I also tracked the swim on a watch. And on the bike, I had a separate computer. So I got that set up and went into the bike feeling good.
How'd the bike go? Was it hilly?
The bike was very flat, but this race was right on the edge of the river, so there was a good amount of wind resistance that I wasn't thinking about. But I would say overall, the bike was probably it was the biggest challenge for me. It's what I train the least. But for people who are experienced bikers, it probably wasn't bad at all. I don't think the bike course itself was actually really hard.
Okay, yeah, because your average speed was what, 17.5?
I would say so. And again, probably one of the biggest reasons for that was pacing. I knew to do a marathon after that, I'd have to make sure that I had enough energy. And one thing that they don't tell you about, I'd say, in these Ironmans is that it's mostly an all day event. So you need to make sure that you regulate yourself. I mean, if you're just sitting around for 6 hours, you're going to have to do things like eat, go to the bathroom, uh, drink some water. And so when you're on the bike burning maybe 1,000 calories an hour, it's all added up. So my average speed was probably 17 miles an hour, like you're saying, but most of the time I was biking about 20, but it would just be every hour, 2 hours, just had to pull over, use the restrooms they have, get some food, get something to drink, and make sure that by the time the end of the day comes, you still have gas in the tank to finish it.
What were you eating? So were you just eating pretzels?
So they have aid stations set up. So you will have availability to get water, bananas, and Gatorade endurance formula at every station. So during the bike, I primarily would just go into the aid station, whatever I needed, I would take it. So I want to say the first one, maybe mile 15, drank a whole Gatorade like it was nothing. Yeah, just chugged it down and kept going again. I think the second aid, so mile 30, 35, I probably had a full water and a banana. And then mile 60, maybe 66, they have the halfway point where you can get to your gear bag. So I think I just had probably 4 pieces of bread to get some calories in, full bag of, not a full bag, maybe a half bag of pretzels again. So
Mhm.
another 500 calories, drank a water, and I also drank a whole Pedialyte.
Good. Yeah, the Pedialytes.
Yes, because Brennan and my mom, they had me bring these Pedialyte drinks they've had since we were little kids. They're basically hydration fuel, borderline medicine. But I think in that single dose, I probably had double your daily salt requirement just to make sure I'd have enough in me.
Yeah, because the thing is, when you sweat, you primarily lose salt, correct?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I don't think Gatorade has as much of that. That's more sugar based. I've got to say, you and mom were right with your sports science. It definitely helped. I had a ton of energy at that halfway point because that's the point when you realize, okay, I've still got a bike 60 more miles, then I have to run a marathon because the swim and the bike aren't as intense. But when you know, okay, I've got to slug out this bike and then run, it's a lot mentally. So there were times cruising down the back roads in Maryland, I was like, oh, this is hard. But then I remember how many people care about me, how hard we've all trained to get here. And it really did carry me through just all the support I've gotten in the months leading up to this.
So that when your brain was telling you you can't do, did your brain ever tell you you can't do this, you can't do that? Did you get those thoughts or no?
I don't think I got those thoughts where you can't do it. My biggest thing was finishing in time because in these Ironman races, there's a cutoff point. I think it's like 16 or 17 hours. So I wanted to make sure I hit that to get it done.
Mhm.
But yeah, honestly, the thing I gripped to is just all the people who cared about me and who every day just motivate me and have helped me, whether it's now or even years before. It really does mean a lot to me. And I want to show them how much I care too.
So yeah, so where does when you're out there for 12 and a half hours, are people listening to music? Like, what do people, did you listen to music or did you just think to yourself?
I would say most people don't listen to music. There might be some rule you're actually not allowed to. You'll see some people on the bikes who have them listening to music. But for me, I just locked in. I mean, the countryside was absolutely beautiful. You're just out there going around an area that you wouldn't normally be in. Because this race was down in southern Maryland. I'd never been anywhere near there in my life. Just see what it looks like. I think it's actually a historical area where Harriet Tubman grew up. I think Frederick Douglass as well. So a lot of the stories that you hear, but they're absolutely beautiful land with tons of crops growing on them.
Nice. All
So
right.
it can be enjoyable. It hurts, but it's enjoyable.
So you're halfway through the bike. Uh, is that when you started hurting? Your legs
Yep.
started feeling it?
Yeah, that's when it really kicks in because by that point, I mean, I've been out there exercising for 4 hours. I mean, you think about that a normal day, you just
Yeah.
say, hey, we're going to go do a 4 hour workout. That's crazy in and of itself. But then this, you're really still at the beginning phases. So you've just got to be ready to go and just do whatever it takes. And this is when that race really started pushing me, because I'd done half Ironmans before, but that's when you get past the point, hey, I've never actually exercised this far and put my body under this much stress.
Yeah, that's crazy. So then you finish up the bike, you go into the marathon. What's that mentally after you finish the bike and you're already gassed? And then you think to yourself, I got to run 26 miles. Because 26 miles, we're recording a podcast.
Oh, yeah, we'll keep it going. Hey, Dad.
I guess I can cut this out.
All right, guys. David, David, you feel all right?
Yep. I feel perfectly good, Dad. It was a great day. Yeah, we had an awesome time. I love you, Dad. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, we'll just cut that. We'll cut that out.
There,
bike, and then you're going into the marathon. I mean, a lot of people, just running a marathon is an extreme physical and mental challenge, and now you have to do that at the end. What was the marathon like? Was that the hard? Well, yeah. What was the marathon like?
Definitely. So one thing that really helped me was I finished the bike strong. Once I came to the last part, I was feeling good. So I knew I had extra energy in the tank on the bike. That was a big thing, because just pacing it out definitely played a factor. I was probably going 21, 22 miles an hour at the end of the bike, which for me was really good. So that just gave me the confidence going into the run. Hey, I can do this. I might have to pace myself, break it down, but I'm going to get it done. And going to the last transition, I went in. At that point, my body just couldn't take in any more fluid or any types of nutrition. I was just, at that point, it was a lot on my systems, because you think about your body's been going, things that you don't think about, like your circulatory system, your heart, you've been sweating like crazy. And so at that point, I really couldn't take anything in. So I just changed, got ready, did a quick stretch, and then I just went right after the run.
What was the run? Was the run hilly?
No, the run was pretty flat as well. It was 3 loops around an 8-loop course and then a finish downtown. And so that definitely was playing out in my favor. But I would say, again, I just broke it down, and it was extremely challenging. I mean, we've done a couple marathons before, and at those you can run the whole time. Pretty much it's going to hurt, but it wasn't to the same level of pain as this. I would say around mile 16, I really had to go to, instead of just running straight, I'd have to go to a walk run, where I'd run for probably 30 seconds to a minute, take a 10 to 30-second break, and just run again. So it really became an interval workout to break it down and get it done.
That's great. Do a lot of people do that, or can most people run the entire time?
You saw a lot of people out there walking. I'd say if you're one of the elite athletes, you're probably out there running the whole time. But I'd say even then, most people probably walk at the aid stations they have every mile, just because you have to, different points, you have to get Gatorade, you have to get water. It was probably 80, 85 degrees out that day. So at this point, you're overheating, you're dehydrated. So from the beginning of the run, even when I was hitting those aid stations, I'd make sure to stop. So initially my strategy was run probably every mile, take a quick break, get some water, maybe just pour it on myself to stay cool, and then run again.
Did any health issues come up? Did you pull any muscles or get any blisters?
No muscle pulls. I was fortunate. I was healthy. I'd say I'm younger than most of the people doing the race as well, because most of the people are probably somewhere between age 30 and 55. So I'd say my body's probably just overall more flexible until then. But a lot of those people have a lot more experience, and when it comes to the run, they definitely can just cruise through and finish it. So I have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah. So now that you've had one under the belt, if you were to do it again, how would you train differently, and what would you do differently?
If I end up doing another one, it'll probably be because someone else has the idea and I'll do it with them. But it was fun. It pushed me to my limit. And I would say going forward, I would do more long days of training. So it definitely helped this time. I'd work out maybe 2 hours a day or so. But instead on the weekend, I'd have 1 or 2 long days to try to replicate the intensity that your body goes under. Because by the end of the race, I mean, your muscles are giving out, even your different systems. Like for me, I started getting a headache. My stomach muscles even were hurting. Basically every muscle in your body hurts. Your arms, because you swam, held yourself up on the bike, and then you're running. So just everything's giving out. And I think the biggest thing was it just came down to digging deep, gritting it out, and saying, I've got 10 miles left. I'm going to get this done one way or another.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what it came down to more than anything. I'd say some of it was mental, but at that point, you're just losing your focus as well. You're getting dizzy, you're tired. And so you just have to think, okay, I'm just going to get this done. I'm just going to run for the next 30 seconds, hit my break point, run again, and just keep basically running into a wall over and over until it gets done. Hopefully there are people, maybe we'll keep progressing where it's just 1, 2, 3, you just hit it, finish it off, no problem. But at least this first one, it was a monster challenge and it was a major achievement. I was so pumped up crossing that line, coming down Main Street, people screaming, and it was worth every second of the pain and the months of training that took leading up.
Well, that's awesome, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you, bro.
That sound like, because it's crazy, because when we go out and we run, everyone's like, oh, you guys are good, etc., whatnot. And then was this a humbling experience? I mean, I feel like you're already humble. But then the fact is there's a lot of people that were levels above you, which is crazy because you're levels above me when we're running. Like when we go 20 miles, you're cooking me. I can't even imagine if I tried to attempt this thing.
Oh, you could do it. I think it's just all about the training and the time, because it definitely takes a lot of time and effort to build up the endurance. I think at some of these races, a lot of the top competitors are a little older just because you have years and years to practice and get under your belt. But I mean, it's impressive the numbers that these people put up, because I mean, these events, when we go out and run, maybe it's an hour, 2 hours, but a lot of it's just speed. You get it done, you feel okay after. This one was just gritting it out, toughness. And I guess I'm going to have to get a little bit tougher more than anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was fun. And if anyone's willing to try it, I would say it's definitely worth it. It makes me think about things and just makes you realize that I think most days we do have it really easy. I mean, even this was pretty easy all in all. You're just out there. I'm on a vacation right now from work. Don't have to do anything other than swim around, bike, and then run. It's like you're being a little kid during summer again.
Yeah, but it's a tough physical and mental challenge.
Yes.
Then it pushes you to your brink. So even though it is easy, it's not.
Yeah.
Would you say you've grown from this experience, and what will you take from it forward to help you better your life?
It's funny. There was actually a lady when we were in lining up that said, "Oh, if you finish this, is this going to be a life-altering event?" And I told her probably the same thing I'll say now, where it was a really fun event. It's definitely, it's fun. It's an activity, but I don't think it's life-altering to the point where you truly are going to look at the world completely different. I think I was really happy to see just the kindness of the people there, how much different people wanted to help each other and make sure that when it really came down to it, that people were going to be safe. So that stuck out to me. I'd say that just the overwhelming kindness was awesome to see, but I don't think it's one of those things where when I wake up every day, I'll be like, okay, this is a lesson I learned from that Ironman. I don't think it's to that extent.
You more did it for fun and just the experience.
More for fun, just go out there to have a good challenge. But it definitely wasn't world shaping, I'd say. It pushed me beyond any type of limit. It ground me down, I guess spit me out. But I don't think it's one of those like major life events. It wasn't like there was a major shock. There wasn't major fear or something like that. More than anything, it's just a celebration, having fun, and just going after. Because it was a process to train up, and it has been a lot of fun. Just meeting a lot of good people. I know you've supported me a ton throughout the runs, the trainings, and all the hours that it took. And it was just a tremendous, overwhelming experience. And yeah, in its own right, it was.
That's crazy. I guess the last question I'll have for you. I mean, I know you just finished this, but any big plans for the next event? Or are you just gonna train and rest up and see what the future holds?
We'll see. I would say, I think because of who I am, I'm gonna try some type of endurance event at some point or another. If I'm lucky and have the opportunity to do it. But I don't have a certain thing picked out. I do want to try an ultra marathon at some point in my life. I don't know if that'll be now or later, but that's just another long-term endurance goal. I know a lot of people want me to just stop as well, get safety and the amount of time it takes, but we'll just see where life goes.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, congrats, Davis. Enjoy the rest of your vacation, and I'll see you when you get back.
Thanks. Yeah, it was an awesome week. I'd say more than anything, fired up, had an absolute blast. And if you want something that's really going to push you and make you realize, hey, this is really fun, and it push you in a certain extent physically, probably push you even more mentally, and just on your total, just how much you can focus and test your mental toughness. It's worth it. And it's just fun. It really made a great vacation, and I had a heck of a time. It was just fun. No other way to say it. Just flat out fun. Just fun, fun, fun.
It's fun. All right, you heard it there first, folks. It was fun. So if you want to have fun, sign up for an Ironman.
It wasn't hard. It won't be fun. It won't be worth driving 8 hours. It beat me down, and it definitely. I mean, I could barely move by the end, but that's what we came down here for. So it lived up to the expectations.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Davis. And like I said, enjoy the rest of the vacation. And we'll see everyone next week.
Let's get it every day. Getting better.